Friends, in the previous session we saw the hypothesis testing, formulation and how to test. So that concluded the second module. Today we will be taking up the third module. So the third module will be titled as the data collection and the measurement concepts. So in the module 3 you can see scales of measurement, classification of scales, criteria for good measurement, questionnaire design and types, pilot test, reliability, validity, Cronbach alpha, data collection, what is primary and secondary data, quantitative and qualitative study. Today we will cover the first 3 points: scales of measurement, classification of scales and criteria for good measurement. Then in the future videos we will try and see the other ones. So scales of measurement, there are the levels of measurement is an expression to refer to scales. Just as how you measure using any scale the height of a person, or perhaps the distance between 2 points, or any other measure that you will be using, some form of an instrument is called as a scale. Some instrument you will be using for measuring. For example, to find how much of water is there in the milk, you use a meter called lactometer. Similarly, you find the speed of the wind, you use a meter called anemometer. Similarly, there are so many instruments, scientific instruments to measure different scientific natures. But then the idea of measuring human behavior, the psychological aspects of human behavior, is an instrument that is developed on a subtle manner, which means by asking questions. Just for instance, if you want to know whether a person will vote for a person X or Y, you will have to ask the citizen. You will have to ask him or her whether you will vote or not vote. So that will be a binary answer, yes or no. So that is a scale. That is a measure. Okay. The concept was developed by a psychologist named Stanley Stevens, who proposed the theory of measurement in article on theory of scale measurement in 1946. So the scales are of 4 types: nominal, ordinal, interval and ratio. So what are these scales we will try to see. Before entering into the scales, let us try to understand what is the meaning of data. See that there is a difference between data and information. Data is a whole set of numbers, integers, characters or special characters or whatever it is that you can find. All the Boolean operators and such things that they call in the computer language, whichever can give you an idea about a particular thing. But in the whole of it, the very data that you need for your requirement is called information. For instance, you might go through the paper, morning newspaper. Let us say you are a seeker of a job, or you want to pursue further education. So for you, the entire newspaper could be called as a data, a whole set of data. But then the advertisements that are connected to the job or advertisements that are connected to the education which you are looking for is called as information. So data is of 2 types. One is called continuous data, which is generally the integer or decimal. Example, height, weight, age, which you have purely in terms of numbers. There is no other alphanumeric characters attached to it, right? So that is called continuous data. Another one is called categorical data, which is generally, it is represented in the form of levels. Gender, that is male or female or other gender they call. Now there is 3 levels. Earlier there used to be 2 levels which we represented. So there are just 2 levels. Then education. Let us say up till PU undergraduation or post-graduation can be the 3rd level. More than post-graduation can be 4th level. So 4 levels you are giving to education. So the categorical data is something that you give in levels. Continuous data, no levels, simply numbers. Now let's go to what is the meaning of nominal scale. See, nominal scale is the lowest or the most base scale, right? It is a categorical variable, is called as a nominal variable, and the categorical variable can be captured by a nominal scale. It is, you must keep in mind that it is not a measure of a quantity or a quality, but it is purely a measure of identity. See, if you would want to just identify a person, hey, he is Mr. Ramesh, right? So the name is a mere identity. In a class, there might be 5 Rameshes. All the 5 people need not behave in the same way. They may not have the same parentage, same environment, same level of IQs, same background, family backgrounds, socio-economic status. So many things are very, very different except the name that they are carrying. So therefore, with the name, you cannot generalize, but certainly you can identify. How can you generalize things? Only with their quality or with the quantity. Let us say this person, Mr. Ramesh, among the 5, this Ramesh whom I am talking of is the tallest person in the class. This Ramesh whom I am talking of is the most well-built man in the class. This person whom I am talking of, this Ramesh, has best grades in his section. Or this Ramesh whom I am talking of just last week left the college. He is no more a part of the college. He is not a student here anymore. This Ramesh that I am talking is not a student at all. He is a faculty member, right? So many differences you can bring. That is called quantity and quality. That can be measured in the other scales. Nominal scale is a mere identification. Next comes ordinal scale. So the rank scaling, it is in the order. Which is the order? Number 1, number 2, number 3, orderly. Right? For example, I have just given an illustration where people want to find out which is the maximum read papers, general newspapers and business newspapers. And they did a survey. They found in terms of ranks that in the general newspaper, the Hindu topped the list of general newspapers. Largest people in the South India, at least they lead. But there is, of course, people may argue that it is Times of India. Just leaving it to each one's perception. Then the Indian Express, and then last will be Deccan Chronicle. Similarly, in the business newspaper, which is read most is Economic Times and read least is Financial Express. So this is order 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is called as this can be measured in a ordinal scale. Any ranking, for instance, in a class you want to rank the students based on their academic performance. So how would you rank them? You will have to use your ordinal scale or a ranking scale. Right? How it is or how it is designed, we will see in the later part. Just now, just for this moment, you please understand the idea or concept behind these scales. Then comes the interval scale. Interval scale is more superior to both nominal and ordinal scale. It classifies data into groups or categories. It designates an equal interval. Example, a temperature which has both positive and negative, meaning -2, -5, -10 means it is freezing cold. Perhaps it is snow or ice is there in the Himalayas or maybe in the other parts of the world, in Europe and US, other parts where it is terribly cold. It goes to -°C. So here in this interval scale there is a 0. Okay, there is a negative data point and then there is a positive data point, +1, +2. In Rajasthan here it goes to even +49°C in the peak of summer. Okay, so that is plus positive and negative data points, but there is a central 0 is there. If you call temperature as 0, does it mean that there is no temperature? No, it doesn't mean so. 0 means there is a temperature, which you can say it is neither too hot nor too cold. It is exactly 0. So it is just somewhere between +1 degree or -1 degree. So that is, so there is, when you represent a 0 in interval scale, it does not exactly mean 0. Another example I will give you, which I have not plotted here, is that an IQ level. So between 0 and 100, some people may have very high IQ level. No one has, of course, 100. And someone will have very little or perhaps negligible or zero IQ. If you say 0, do you mean to say that that person's IQ is equal to a dog's IQ? Absolutely no. 0 means there is intelligence quotient, but then it is not manifesting or coming out as much as it comes out for others. So that difference or a relative measure is what we are doing it in the interval scale. Next, for example, interval scale can be measured like how you feel about in the class. You can code it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the first coding, it's I am not happy at all. I am not unhappy. I am not unhappy, meaning I am not happy, but it's not that I am unhappy also. So the third one is I can't say if I truly like the class. Fourth one is I am interested. It's more positive. Fifth one is I eagerly look forward. I am very positive. So this is how you can have questions and try to ascertain from the respondents or the people what is there in their mind about anything, any attribute for that matter, or anything, whether it is marketing, HR, finance, or any other area of interest. You may frame a questionnaire and ask. This will be very important for you because for your dissertation this might be very important. Then last one is the ratio scale. It is the highest scale. It has all the properties of an interval scale and also has an absolute 0. For example, there is a weight. Okay, the weight can be some measure 1 kilogram or even 500 grams or 250 grams or 100 grams. It can also be 0, right? If it is 0, you cannot say no, the weight is not 0 exactly. We are just saying that it is 0. No, it is not so. If there is no weight, it is practically weightless. For example, cotton with some 10 grams of cotton is practically weightless, and it could be equated to 0, right? Or no cotton at all, or no presence of an object can be 0 weight, right? The weighing balance only is available, but there is nothing on top of it, which means the weight is practically 0. So that type of a scale is called as ratio. So for all practical purposes, we will be looking at nominal scale, ordinal scale, and both interval and ratio scale can be called as one scale, right? You can call it as an interval scale only. Let there not be too much of confusion, but when you write in the examination, you will have to write all the 4 scales. In the last but one slide is the criteria for good measurement. Okay. So what is the scale and what is the statistical test? For nominal scale, you can see on the frequency distribution you can do, but other tests like median and percentile, mean, standard deviation, correlation you cannot do. Ratio, coefficient of variance you cannot do. For ordinal, you can do the first 2, frequency distribution, you can find the median and percentile, but not the other 2. What this table means is that you can only, when you have a scale, you cannot do all statistical tests with that scale, except for the interval or ratio scale, where all statistical tools are possible and output you can get and interpret it. But when you are going for the lowest scale, that is a nominal scale, where there is simply an identification, whether that person is X or Y or Z. So if that is the case, too much of analysis cannot be done, as I explained to you in the case of Mr. Ramesh's example, right? This is what it says. Then last slide is the criteria of good measurement. The scale should meet research objectives, very important. The scale should take into account response types, how people are responding, verbally, non-verbally, using pictures or using any other body language, gestures, etc. You have to opt for an appropriate scale of measure, right? Correct scale. If this requires only nominal scale is enough. Whether you have a ration card or not, yes, no, binary answer, enough. How do you rate the services of ration services, ration PDS in your area? Like that, you will, based on the questions that you are asking or based on the intensity of the research, the scale will depend. Scale of measure will depend. Then the next one is you have to take into account all dimensions of study, and last one is appropriate number of scale points. Right? What kind of a scale point you want to have, whether it's a 5-point scale or a 7-point scale or a 9-point scale, you must decide in advance. Right? So this is the first 3 parts in this module. I will elaborately cover the classification of scales in my next video.